I'm Top, and these are 100 facts about the ancient world that you didn't know yet. Mysterious substance in a coffin. In the northwest of China, in the Xinjiang region, archaeologists made a shocking discovery. In an ancient coffin about 3,600 years old, where Bronze Age mummies were found, a mysterious substance was discovered on the neck of one of the women. Today, scientists are confident that this is the oldest cheese in the world. Researchers extracted DNA from this substance and found out that it is Kefir cheese made from cows' and goats' milk. This discovery is important for verification, understanding the origin of kefir and the evolution of probiotic bacteria. Xiaomei Fu from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, together with colleagues, analyzed the bacteria, yeast, and proteins in the sample, which made it possible to identify the ancient cheese. Studies show that Kefir cheese was important for people of that time. It may have been placed in the grave as part of burial customs or as food for the afterlife. Interestingly, two types of cheese were found in the coffin. One was made from goat's milk, the other from cow's milk. Genetic studies. Studies have shown that the microorganisms in the cheese are similar to modern Kefir strains found in East Asia and Tibet. This raises the question of Kefir's geographic origin. It was previously believed that Kefir originated in the Caucasus, but new data suggests the possibility of a second source in Xinjiang. These results show that Kefir spread around the world in different ways, and its history is closely connected with the evolution of human culture. The oldest hairstyle. This is an amazing discovery. A preserved hairstyle about 3,300 years old found on the head of an ancient Egyptian resident. The intricate braids are striking in their complexity and excellent preservation. In ancient Egypt, hairstyles were of great importance and were often used to express status, age, and social position. Hair care included the use of oils and aromatic products, which also contributed to their durability. Preserved details. Braids like these allow scientists to better understand how important appearance was to the ancient Egyptians and what skill was required to create such hairstyles. The Book of Kells. The Book of Kells is a medieval manuscript kept in the Trinity College Library and is one of Dublin's main attractions. This manuscript contains the four Gospels in Latin and canon tables written on parchment. The book measures 33 by 25 centimeters. It consists of 340 pages. It was created at the end of the 8th and the beginning of the 9th century, and research has shown that it had 4 illustrators. A unique feature of the manuscript is that each letter has its own unique design, color, and meaning, like a secret code that has yet to be deciphered. The book got its name from the Abbey of Kells, where it was saved from the Vikings in 814. It is believed that work on it began during the lifetime of St. Columba and continued for 2 centuries after his death. Historians suggest several versions of the origin of this manuscript. According to one of them, it was created on the island of Iona and later transported to the Abbey of Kells. Another version says that the writing began on Iona but was completed in Kells. There is also a suggestion that the manuscript was created in England or even in Scotland. Despite the variety of theories, the Book of Kells remains one of the most mysterious and magnificent works of art of the Middle Ages. Something unexpected at the bottom of the sea. Off the coast of Sicily, workers noticed something unusual sticking out of the seabed, which led to a rare archaeological discovery. In January 2022, near the Vendicari Reserve at a depth of about 70 meters, the remains of an ancient shipwreck were discovered. When a team of marine archaeologists dived to the site, they found more than 40 rare Roman amphorae, many of which were preserved in their original position, as if they had just been loaded onto the ship. These amphorae, estimated to be between 1,900 and 2,100 years old, are a unique type of pottery known as Richborough 527. This type of amphora, with wide necks, spiral designs, and pointed bottoms, was first discovered in Richborough, England, and later found in Lipari, Italy. Scientists suggest that these amphorae were used to transport potassium alum, a mineral mined in Lipari. Gilmerton Cave. Gilmerton Cave in Scotland, once considered one of the oldest sites in the country, has recently become the subject of scientific debate. Located in the suburb of Gilmerton, Edinburgh, the cave was opened to the public only 20 years ago, but its true origins still raise questions. The cave, consisting of 2 corridors and 8 rooms, is entirely hand-carved into the sandstone. It was once believed to have served as a Druid temple and was sealed by them to preserve the sanctity of the place, but new evidence casts doubt on this version. Some researchers suggest that the cave might have been used as a secluded pub, although the presence of several such establishments in a small village makes this theory unlikely. The difficulty of working the sandstone in the cave, as well as the presence of curved horn-shaped tables, indicates a period before the agrarian era. Therefore, the construction of the cave is presumably dated to the period from 500 BC to 500 AD, a time when Druids might have lived in the region. Research on the cave continues, and the hidden part of the bay that was found may reveal even more secrets in the future. Scientists do not rule out that, in the future, the Gilmerton Cave may be recognized as a unique, preserved sanctuary of ancient culture, despite the many mysteries and the lack of concrete evidence about its original purpose. A woman in the Siberian necropolis. On the edge of the Arctic, a unique discovery was made. The only woman resting in a male necropolis, buried in a cocoon of copper and fur. This mysterious woman from the 12th century, who belonged to an unknown hunting and fishing civilization of Siberia, had remarkable connections with Persia. Her body was accidentally mummified, and she was estimated to be 30 to 35 years old. A greenish tint is noticeable on the woman's face from pieces of a copper kettle, which helped preserve her in the permafrost. She has long eyelashes, a full head of hair, and impressive teeth. Near the skull, bronze temple rings wrapped in rawhide, possibly deerskin, were found, and birch bark, which was used to wrap the mummy. Like the other remains, the mummy's feet are pointed toward the Gorny Polui River, which scientists believe has religious significance. The copper mummy is the first discovery of an adult woman at this ancient cemetery. Many analyses, including DNA testing, will be conducted by Russian and South Korean scientists. Bright glass beads. Archaeologists studying the Bronze Age in northern Italy have discovered thousands of glass beads over 3,000 years old at the ancient settlement of Fratesina. These bright artifacts shed light on the earliest art of glassmaking in Europe. The team of archaeologists found a Bronze Age clay furnace surrounded by tools and remains of glass object in a structure that has no equivalent in Europe from that era. Among the finds are numerous multicolored beads that have preserved their rich colors, from blue to red, from white to black, with patterns of swirls and spots. Even after thousands of years, their colors remain bright, as if they have just come out of the workshop. The color stability is explained by the unique recipe of the local glass, made from sand from the Po River, which gave the items their longevity. Fratesina, which flourished from 1200 to 1100 BC, was a center of craft, production, and trade. In addition to glass, amber and ivory were processed here, and they also worked with bronze, gold, tin, and iron. New Maya ruins. Archaeologists are discovering more and more ruins of the Maya civilization, thanks to new technologies and satellites that help detect structures hidden beneath dense forests. As professor of archaeology at Texas Tech University, Brad Houck said at a NASA conference, in the past 10 years, scientists have discovered more Maya sites than in the previous 150 years. The main tool that helps with this is LiDAR technology. LiDAR allows us to see through dense forest vegetation and identify structures that were previously hidden. With this technology, archaeologists are discovering new ruins in the territories of modern Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize. One such project is a study in the northeastern part of Belize, where a team of scientists is examining an area of 650 square kilometers. In just a few days, scientists discovered 28 new large sites. The ancient technologies used by the Maya for water management and agriculture may prove useful even in our time. Tim Murta from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte noted that the Maya adapted to changing climate conditions by creating terrace systems and reservoirs to combat droughts. These ancient methods can serve as an important lesson in the context of modern climate change. Treasures of Atlantis under the Sphinx Egyptologist Roman Orikoff, a member of the International Association of Egyptologists, commented on the low likelihood of discovering secret chambers and treasures of Atlantis under the Egyptian pyramids. He pointed out that the pyramids have been studied for centuries, and if there were anything there, scientists would have found it long ago. The topic of secret chambers under the pyramids and the Sphinx in Giza emerged thanks to the American mystic Edgar Cayce in the early 20th century. And although excavations were carried out in the past, nothing of the sort was found. Now the Egyptian authorities prohibit such research, which confirms the absence of hidden chambers. The Egyptologist also emphasizes the differences in the concept of treasure between the present and the past. For the ancient Egyptians, who lived in conditions where the main clothing was a loincloth, modern ideas about treasure don't reflect reality. The theory of Egyptologist Farouk el-Elbaz about the natural origin of the Great Sphinx is mentioned separately. Construction expert Fedor Vasilyev considers it logical, noting that the main material of the sculpture is limestone, which is not very durable by itself. In his opinion, erosion could have formed only the general outline, and further detailing was done by ancient craftsmen. I told you about this in the previous episodes. The invasion of witches and ghouls. In the Philippines in the 1950s, rumors spread about an invasion of aswangs, evil creatures from Filipino folklore, similar to ghouls and witches. These mythical creatures were said to attack people, which caused a wave of fear among the population. However, these rumors were driven not by folklore, but by a well-planned CIA operation. To suppress the Filipino insurgents, American agents decided to take advantage of the local people's superstitions. The CIA kidnapped local residents or insurgents, killed them in horrifying ways, and left the bodies in plain sight to cause panic. Then they spread rumors that these were attacks by aswangs. This tactic played on people's fears and beliefs, which led to a weakening of support for the insurgents among the local population. It was psychological warfare, the goal of which was to break people's morale without resorting to open battles. This case shows how myths and folklore can be used for political and military purposes, becoming a powerful tool for manipulation. The Roswell Disc. The Roswell Disc is a mystical artifact that was rumored to have been found near Roswell, New Mexico, after the famous UFO incident in 1947. According to some reports, the disc is part of the wreckage of an unidentified flying object. The disc was a round metal plate about 3 meters in diameter, with unusual symbols and markings on its surface that could not be attributed to any known earthly language. The material from which the disc was made turned out to be unidentified and had strange properties. Some sources claimed that the disc was handed over to the military and studied in secret laboratories. Those who had the opportunity to see it spoke about its potential connection to extraterrestrial technology and the possibility of storing information that surpassed all earthly counterparts. Over time, the Roswell disc became a symbol of conspiracy theories and mysteries related to UFOs. Its existence is still disputed and remains a subject of debate among scientists and paranormal researchers. The disc has become a legend among UFO enthusiasts, and many believe that it is kept in secret government archives, along with other artifacts that point to extraterrestrial involvement in human affairs. A ritual axe that is 4,500 years old. In China, archaeologists discovered an ancient ritual weapon, an axe with engravings that is 4,500 years old. The axe belongs to the Liangzhu culture, one of the most advanced cultures in China at that time. This culture lived in the Yangtze River Delta, but when floods occurred, the people of Liangzhu were forced to leave their capital and settlement. This led to their complete disappearance. Around 2300 BC, scientists found 329 stone tools, 73 stone and bone arrows, and many other artifacts. In China, engravings were discovered. A large axe was found on a sacrificial platform, showing signs of wear, and engraved on both sides with tigers, cloud patterns, and birds. The axe was found on a sacrificial platform, and it shows signs of wear and damage. Scientists believe that the axe was not used in battles, but in rituals and ceremonies to symbolize power. Liu Baoshan, the head of the local archaeological institute in China, said that the patterns on the axe were made using a harder stone tool. This is the first axe with a tiger engraving found in this region. Now we will delve even deeper into history and find out what our ancestors ate more than 100,000 years ago. The first biological weapon. Scientists have confirmed a shocking story about biological weapon used 800 years ago in Norway. During excavations in the ruins of Sverdsborg Castle, archaeologists found the remains of a person who was thrown into a well to poison the water in the midst of the medieval civil war in Norway. This story is described in the Scandinavian chronicle The Saga of Sverre, but many historians doubted its authenticity. According to the saga, during the siege of Sverdsborg, a group supporting the archbishop and known as the Baglers, not finding King Sverre Sigurdsson, decided to use a corpse as a means to poison the water. To confirm this, a team of scientists conducted a DNA analysis of the remains found at the bottom of the well. Back in 1938, archaeologists discovered the intact remains of a man at a depth of 6 meters in the well, but further research was interrupted due to World War II. It was only in 2016 that scientists were able to resume excavations, which showed that the person from the well was a man aged 30 to 40 with a skull injury, which may have been the cause of his death. There were no clothes around him except for a preserved leather shoe. DNA analysis and radiocarbon dating confirmed that the remains indeed belonged to the period of the conflict. In Millennia-Old, Japan, archaeologists discovered a unique find of over 100,000 ancient coins, including Chinese banliang coins, dated to 175 BC. These coins, found during the construction of a factory, cover the period from the 7th to the 13th centuries. They were tied in bundles of 100 pieces using straw ropes called sashi. This place, located near the ruins of the Qin Dynasty Palace, was chosen to hide the treasures, probably because of the approaching war. A total of 1,060 sashi bundles were found, some of which contained up to 1,000 coins. Analysis of 334 coins from the hoard revealed 44 different types of currency, covering the period from the Western Han Dynasty to the Southern Song Dynasty. The earliest coin, banliang, has a diameter of 2.3 centimeters. It has a square hole in the center and a thickness of 1 millimeter. The latest coin dates back to 1265, indicating that the hoard was hidden during the Kamakura period. Ancient piggy bank. Archaeologists working in the ancient city of Adrianopolis in the Eskipazar district of Turkey discovered a unique find, a collection of 10 coins that are approximately 1,400 years old. These coins were presumably kept in an ancient piggy bank. The city of Adrianopolis is also known as the Zeugma of the Black Sea. It is famous for its mosaics depicting various animals and has been studied since 2003 by a team led by Ersin Çelikbaş from Karabük University. This ancient city is famous for its churches with mosaics and important discoveries, including defensive structures, rock tombs, and arched buildings. During the excavations, an amazing find was discovered in one of the buildings. Coins from the time of Constans II, dating from 641 to 666 AD. According to Ersin Çelikbaş, these coins might have been used as an ancient piggy bank, probably by a woman of that time. Amber bowl. This magnificent amber bowl, which is about 3,270 years old, was found in a large round barrow in Hove, England, during the excavations in 1856. Amber is a material known for its beauty and is associated with the sun and life energy. In ancient times, it was used not only for jewelry, but also for ritual purposes. According to researchers, the bowl that was found could have been an item of high status, belonging to an important member of society or a chief. Creating such a bowl required exceptional skills. Since amber is a fragile material and working with it demands patience and craftsmanship, the discovered bowl indicates that people of that time had access to rare and valuable materials, which also confirms the existence of trade connections and exchanges with other regions. The fact that the bowl was buried together with its owner speaks to its significance for burial rituals or beliefs in the afterlife. Rare artifacts from the Titanic, an alligator leather purse and tiny perfume bottles that still emit a strong scent are just a few of the precious artifacts found during the excavation of the sunken Titanic. Location. The whereabouts of the warehouse with these relics is strictly classified. All that is known is that it is located in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. The shelves are filled with thousands of items, from an overturned bathtub and portholes to tiny glass buttons. Thomasina Ray, Director of Collections at RMS Titanic Inc., showed an alligator leather bag that belonged to Marion Minwell, a third-class passenger. Marion was a 63-year-old milliner traveling to the U.S. to see her daughter. Important documents and photographs were preserved in her bag. Her tragic fate was that she had originally booked a ticket on another ship, but ended up on the Titanic and became one of the 1,500 who perished. Among other artifacts are perfume bottles belonging to Adolf Zilfeld, a perfumer and first-class passenger who survived the disaster. The scent of the perfume can still be sensed, even though it spent decades at the bottom of the ocean. The collection also includes a bottle of champagne with the drink still inside, found among a variety of kitchenware at the bottom of the ocean. The Titanic was a luxurious liner, and there was a huge amount of champagne on board for the first-class passengers, who enjoyed the highest level of comfort. The tableware on board reflected the class division: plain white ceramics for third class, and elegant plates with gold trim for first-class passengers. These items help recreate the atmosphere of life on board. The company RMS Titanic Incorporated, which is authorized to recover artifacts from the ship, recently announced its intention to retrieve the Marconi radio equipment that transmitted the distress signals. Some people believe that the sunken ship is a burial site that should be left undisturbed. However, Thomasina Ray emphasizes the importance of preserving the memory of the tragedy through these artifacts. And what do you think? Should the ship be left undisturbed, or should we try to bring it ashore? Share your opinion in the comments below the video. The tunic of Alexander the Great. Archaeologists discovered a fragment of rare purple fabric in a tomb in Germany, which may have been part of Alexander the Great's tunic and symbolized his power. The fabric was found in a golden crypt next to the remains of a man buried with a golden wreath. The fabric is a rare example of cotton from that period, dyed in Tyrian purple, an expensive dye that was associated with royal power. Purple clothing was traditionally worn by Persian kings, and Alexander adopted this practice after his victory over Darius III, emphasizing his divine status. Some historians believe that Philip II, the father of Alexander, is buried in the tomb. Others believe that the artifacts may have belonged to Alexander himself or his brother Philip III Aridaeus, who inherited the royal regalia. Among other artifacts, a golden diadem, a scepter, and an oak leaf wreath were found, items often mentioned in historical sources about Alexander's royal regalia. On the tomb's frieze, preserved hunting scenes show Alexander in royal purple, according to researchers. Treasures in the oldest tomb. In the southwestern part of China, archaeologists discovered an intact tomb from the Western Han Dynasty in the Wulong district of Chongqing Municipality. The tomb, discovered during rescue excavations before the construction of a hydroelectric power station on the Wujiang River, contained more than 600 valuable items made of wood, bamboo, ceramics, and bronze, dated to 193 BC. This discovery provided important evidence of that era's history and culture. The tomb remained submerged for most of the year, which contributed to its preservation and protection from destruction and looting. According to the project leader Huan Wei, studying the artifacts will provide new insights into the lives of people in this region about 2,000 years ago. For example, the discovered jade tableware indicates the high social status of the tomb's owner. This discovery is compared to the findings in Shandong province, where more than 110 tombs from the period between the Zi, Zhen, and Zheng dynasties were excavated. In some tombs, items made of gold, silver, bronze, and ceramics were found, and frescoes from the Yuan dynasty period with traditional Chinese patterns symbolizing prosperity have also been preserved. Amethyst vase. This magnificent vase made of amethyst dates back to approximately the 8th century BC and belongs to the Neo-Assyrian period. Found in a private collection, it is an amazing example of the craftsmanship of ancient artisans working with semi-precious stones. Amethyst was highly valued for its rarity and beauty. Its deep purple color was associated with luxury, and was considered a symbol of power and spirituality. Amethyst items in those times were created with great effort, as working with such a hard stone required a high level of skill and special tools. It is likely that this vase was part of a ritual set or was used to store valuables, possibly incense or oils. The fine polishing and proportional shape indicate that the item was intended for noble owners, such as royal families or high-ranking officials. The Neo-Assyrian civilization was one of the most powerful in ancient Rome, known for its art, architecture, and exquisite household items. Sacsayhuaman is a majestic fortress located at an altitude of 3,701 meters on the northern outskirts of Cusco, the ancient capital of the Inca Empire in Peru. Built in the 15th century during the reign of the great Sapa Inca Pachacuti and his successors, Sacsayhuaman is considered one of the most outstanding achievements of Inca engineering and architecture. The complex was strategically located to protect Cusco and its inhabitants, as well as to serve as an important ceremonial center. The most striking feature of Sacsayhuaman is its massive walls, made of giant blocks of gray limestone. These boulders, some of which weigh over 100 tons, were skillfully carved and fitted together with remarkable precision without the use of any mortar. Despite the enormous size and weight of the stones, the joints between them are so tight that not even a knife blade can fit between the blocks. This demonstrates the incredible skills and knowledge of the Incas in construction, which continue to inspire admiration and raise questions among scientists and engineers. In addition, the structure of Sacsayhuaman has a zigzag shape, which adds an extra level of complexity to its construction and suggests a well-thought-out, strategic, and symbolic significance. The fortress was used not only for defense but also for holding religious and state ceremonies, making it an important spiritual and cultural center. Stone sarcophagus. In Italy, archaeologists have discovered an untouched sarcophagus that is 2,500 years old, which had remained hidden underground near the volcanic Lake Bolsena. During excavations of the ancient Etruscan settlement of Bisenzio on the shore of the lake, several graves were found, dating from between 700 and 500 BC. To the scientists' surprise, none of the burials had been looted, which is rare for such an ancient site. Of particular interest was a simple stone sarcophagus that had preserved its contents in their original state. With the help of an excavator, the archaeologists lifted the heavy lid and found inside an almost completely preserved skeleton. Next to the remains was a small clay vessel, which, according to experts, could symbolize personal belongings or an offering to the deceased. The find is unique and gives researchers a rare opportunity to study the remains of an ancient Etruscan. Scientists hope that further analysis of the skeleton will provide valuable information about the life and culture of the Etruscans. Lost history, a long-awaited fragment of the famous Dead Sea Scrolls, dating back 2,700 years, was recently found. These scrolls are part of ancient manuscripts discovered near the Dead Sea between 1946 and 1956, including 972 documents in various ancient languages. A third of them contain biblical texts, while the rest are non-biblical, relating to the era of the Second Temple. Interestingly, one of the three rare fragments dated to the period of the First Temple, which was thought to be lost, was discovered in the United States in the state of Montana. The owner of this ancient artifact said that his mother bought the papyrus as a souvenir in Jerusalem in 1965. This fragment is of interest to scholars because it contains only 4 lines in ancient Hebrew, beginning with the words, "Go to Ishmael." Researchers suggest that this was an instruction for the recipient. The name Ishmael in biblical history is associated with the firstborn of Abraham and his maidservant Hagar, and it is quite popular. After a detailed analysis, experts confirmed the authenticity of the scroll and its age. Now, this historical artifact is in Israel, with the Antiquities Authority. However, many similar scrolls are still hidden in private collections around the world. Ancient tumor with teeth. During archaeological excavations in Amarna, Egypt, scientists made an astonishing discovery. In one of the tombs, dating back to around 1340 BC, They found the skeleton of a young woman aged 18 to 20, wrapped in plant fiber material. Although tomb number 3051 was located in a cemetery for common people, the woman apparently belonged to a wealthier social class, as indicated by the presence of gold rings on her hands. Special attention was drawn to a ring depicting the deity Bez, who protected the household and women. However, the most astonishing find was a mass of bone with teeth discovered in the pelvic area of the skeleton. This formation, according to researchers, is believed to be an ovarian teratoma, a tumor containing tissues not typical for that location, such as hair, bones, or teeth. It is possible that the amulet depicting a demon was worn by the woman to relieve pain associated with her ovarian disease. This discovery is especially valuable because teratomas are extremely rare in archaeological finds. This is the oldest known tumor of its kind. The study of the woman from Amarna suggests that she was an active participant in the social life of the city, which was the capital of Egypt during the reign of Akhenaten. Cursed emeralds? These so-called cursed emeralds became one of the most tragic discoveries in the history of treasure hunting. They were discovered by J. Miskovich, a man who dedicated his life to searching for ancient treasures. In 2010, off the coast of Florida, he managed to find a cache of emeralds valued at several $1 million. At first glance, it seemed like luck that could change his life for the better. However, the discovery soon attracted the attention not only of the media, but also of federal agencies, including the FBI. Legal proceedings and investigations began, aimed at determining the origin of the precious stones. Complicated legal battles and public pressure turned Miskovich's life into a nightmare. Constant accusations and pressure from the authorities made his existence unbearable, and eventually, he committed suicide. This tragedy became the basis for the legend of the cursed emeralds, which brought their owner not wealth and success, but pain and suffering. Today, this story serves as a grim reminder that behind great discoveries, there can sometimes be terrifying consequences. The lost fragment of the Bible translation. Austrian scholars made a remarkable discovery in the Vatican Library, a new chapter from a translation of the Gospel of Matthew, dating to 1750. Invisible to the naked eye, the text was discovered thanks to the use of ultraviolet photography. This discovery became part of a research project aimed at restoring texts that were erased or rewritten by scribes between the 4th and 12th centuries. AD manuscripts of this kind, called palimpsests, were created by reusing already used material. This was due to a shortage of writing materials. Ultraviolet light made it possible to reveal the lost texts. Among the 74 restored manuscripts, there was one especially valuable ancient version of the Bible, which is 100 years older than the earliest Greek translations, including the Sinaitic Codex. The new text supplements the well-known verse about how Jesus' disciples plucked ears of grain and adds, "They rubbed them in their hands and ate." This discovery is an important contribution to the understanding of ancient Syriac texts and the study of ancient writing. Rock-cut tomb. In Malta, builders accidentally came across an ancient tomb about 2,300 years old. In September, while installing new water lines near a hospital in the city of Birkirkara, workers discovered a chamber carved into the rock. Later, archaeologists confirmed that it was a Punic tomb. During subsequent excavations, the central shaft of the tomb and 3 burial chambers were discovered. The entrances to them were sealed with original stone slabs. Through narrow gaps, archaeologists saw skeletons and artifacts. Inside the chambers, there were bones arranged in a specific order, as well as urns with ashes. The bones were probably moved to make room for new burials. A total of at least 14 burials were found in the 3 chambers. The remains have already been moved to the laboratory for further analysis. Archaeologists plan to conduct radiocarbon dating and DNA analysis to learn more about the Punic community that created this tomb. The Punic civilization, also known as the Carthaginian Republic, was one of the most influential powers in the Mediterranean until it was conquered by the Romans around 150 BC, an engineering marvel in Egypt. Once again, ancient Egypt continues to amaze modern researchers. This time, an amazing tunnel was discovered beneath a temple in the ancient city of Toposiris Magna, which experts are calling a geometric marvel. The tunnel was found at a depth of 13 meters. Its length is 1,305 meters, and its height is about 2 meters. It is carved into sandstone, and its design resembles the famous Eupalinian tunnel on the Greek island of Samos, which is considered an engineering marvel. The exact name of the tunnel is still unknown, but some of its sections are flooded with water. Archaeologist Martinez, who has been searching for the lost tomb of Cleopatra VII since 2004, believes that the tunnel could lead to important discoveries. Taposiris Magna was founded around 280 BC by Ptolemy II of Cleopatra's ancestors. Archaeologists believe that the temple was dedicated to Osiris and Isis, deities with whom Cleopatra was closely associated. The team also plans to explore the Mediterranean Sea as a series of earthquakes between 320 and 1303 caused part of the temple to collapse into the water. Earlier in my videos, I talked about how tunnels connecting Lake Merio to the Mediterranean Sea were discovered. UFO on the cover of an 18th century book, the discovery of a UFO image on the cover of Johann Funk's book, published in 1716, sparked widespread debate among ufologists. This image, depicting a classic flying saucer surrounded by bright lightning, is seen by many as confirmation that alien visitors were coming to Earth as far back as 300 years ago. Despite the variety of opinions about whether alien visits actually happened in the 1700s, the discovery confirms that people of that time were also interested in the idea of extraterrestrial civilizations. As always, people are divided into two types. Some believe in UFOs, while others are skeptical about such assumptions. Ufologists are wondering about the technological development of the aliens. If we assume that they really visited Earth in the 18th century, then how did their technology remain unchanged for 3 centuries? This refers to the shape of the alien spacecraft. A skeleton from different eras. In Belgium, archaeologists found an unusual skeleton made up of bones from 5 people who lived several thousand years apart. The remains were discovered at a Roman-era cremation cemetery in Pomerol, near the border with France. It turned out that this strange individual predates the Roman period by about 2,500 years. Moreover, radiocarbon analysis showed that the bones belonged to the Neolithic period, that is, between 7,000 and 3,000 BC. Excavations of this cemetery began back in the 1970s, and among 76 cremation burials, scientists discovered an unusual burial, a skeleton in a fetal position. According to the initial assumptions, it was Roman, since a Roman-type bone pin was found next to the skull. However, a detailed analysis in 2019 led to unexpected conclusions. The skeleton was assembled from bones belonging to different people, and the pin itself dates to around 69-210 AD. Scientists suggest that the Romans may have accidentally disturbed the Neolithic burial, adding the pin to the skull to complete the composition. However, it remains a mystery why and how the different remains ended up being assembled together. Droplets of the ancient ocean. Imagine that 600 million years ago, the Earth was covered with ice like a giant snowball. This is called the snowball Earth hypothesis. But how can we know if this really happened? The answer was found in the highest mountains in the world, the Himalayas. Scientists from India and Japan discovered droplets of ancient water in the mountains. These droplets may be part of the ocean floor that existed when the Earth was covered with ice. Analysis of these droplets shows that for a long period of time there was no influx of calcium into the oceans. This may explain why there was more oxygen in the atmosphere, and may even help us understand how complex forms of life began. At that time, river water was not entering the oceans, and there was no calcium. This could have led to the growth of special bacteria that began to release more oxygen into the atmosphere. This discovery is not just an amazing glimpse into the past. It may help us understand Earth's climate in the future. That's how science works. By studying ancient mysteries, we learn more about what lies ahead for us. The mystery of Orion. Have you ever wondered why many ancient monuments face the constellation Orion? Could it be that from there, from the distant cosmos, gods came to Earth? Incredible as it sounds, it's a fact. Our ancestors left us an entire system of signs pointing to Orion. They created architectural masterpieces, complex calendars, and observation points that allowed them to track the positions of stars in the sky. Orion was one of the most popular constellations among the ancients. Its image was even found on a mammoth tusk dated to 32,000 to 32,500 BC. While studying an ancient sanctuary on the Kola Peninsula, scientists noticed an interesting detail. If you connect the locations of the finds with imaginary lines on a map, you get the constellation Orion. And this can no longer be a coincidence. Orion seems to be everywhere. There is no place on Earth where it hasn't been found. Egypt, Mexico, ancient Babylon, ancient Rus. Everywhere, it played a crucial role, becoming the center of the heavens. Probably, it's about the principle of as above, so below. The ancient Egyptians built their pyramids oriented toward Orion, as if creating a terrestrial map of this constellation. And even the three large volcanoes on Mars together form Orion's belt. A simple coincidence or a trace of a cosmic connection. And representatives of the ancient Egyptian civilization also believed that their gods descended from Orion and Sirius. Books made from people. In the 18th and 19th centuries, there was a grim practice of binding books in human skin. This rare and shocking phenomenon was called anthropodermic bibliopagy. Some copies of medical or philosophical treatises, as well as personal diaries, could be bound in the skin of deceased people, most often in their memory. For example, some doctors use the skin of their patients to bind medical texts in order to immortalize their contribution to science. Books like this have become the subject of increased interest and research. Modern technologies, including DNA analysis and chemical tests, make it possible to determine whether the binding is really made from human skin. This phenomenon reflects not only the medical and scientific interests of the era, but also attitudes toward death, memory, and the body. Today, anthropodermic books are rare artifacts that evoke both horror and fascination, as well as serve as a reminder of the strange and contradictory traditions of the past. The Antikythera mechanism. It is impossible not to mention the most unique archaeological discovery, which many consider to be the first known analog computer, the Antikythera mechanism. This complex device was created to predict astronomical events, such as the positions of the planets in solar eclipses, and could track cycles, including the 4-year period of the Olympic Games. It also allowed for precise calculation of lunar phases and solar years. Its functionality and complexity are astonishing, considering it was created more than 2,000 years ago, between 150 and 100 BCE. The Antikythera mechanism was discovered in 1901 among the wreckage of an ancient ship that sank near the Greek island of Antikythera. Its discovery was a real sensation, since the mechanism consists of numerous bronze gears and wheels, making it incredibly complex for its time. The largest gear in the device has a diameter of about 13 centimeters, and the overall construction indicates a high level of skill among ancient engineers. Scientists are still studying this artifact using modern technologies such as X-ray imaging and 3D scanning to uncover all of its functions. The Antikythera mechanism is considered evidence that the ancient Greeks possessed knowledge and technologies that were lost for many centuries afterward. Guardian statues. A joint Cambodian-Chinese team conducted excavations at the entrance gates to the royal palace, which was built in the 11th century for the kings of the Khmer Empire. This palace is part of the Angkor Thom complex, which includes the famous temple of Angkor Wat. During the excavation, archaeologists discovered 12 ancient guardian statues made of sandstone. These figures, created around the 11th century, were previously placed on top of the gates in 2 rows. Each statue is unique in size and details, with a height of at least 1 meter. The photographs show the statues as standing figures, some of which hold a staff in their right hand, surrounded by exquisite decorative elements around their heads. The condition of the statues varies. Some remain almost intact, while others are covered with cracks and worn by time. According to archaeologists, the Angkor Thom Palace underwent regular modifications over 600 years of rule by various Khmer kings. The team plans to clean and restore the statues to return them to their original place. 200-year-old wine. During excavations near the walls of the Kazan Kremlin, archaeologists from the Kalikov Institute of Archaeology of the Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Tatarstan in Russia discovered a wine cellar from the early 19th century. Green glass bottles were found in it, with a volume of 0.3 liters, sealed with wax seals, bearing the producer's initials and the year of production. Most of the bottles turned out to be broken, but 2 remained intact and one of them still contains liquid. Scientists determined that the bottles were produced in 1814-1815 at the Sheryatinskaya glass factory in the Yegoriyevsky district of the Ryazan province. It is assumed that the wine cellar belonged to the church of Paraskeva Pyatnitskaya, and the wine was used for church rituals, particularly for communion. This archaeological find will be sent for chemical analysis to determine the composition and properties of the ancient wine beverage. Egyptian tools. In Egypt, traces of stone sawing were found, which were discovered more than 100 years ago. It was the legendary pyramid explorer Sir William Flinders Petrie. He noticed these traces even on the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau. He suggested that the sarcophagus was carved from ancient granite using huge saws 3 meters long. Saw marks can also be found all over Egypt. For example, near the Great Pyramid, there are the ruins of a temple. There, on the stone floor, numerous saw marks have been preserved. At the beginning of the 20th century, German archaeologists even deliberately put blocks with saw marks on public display during the restoration of the temple. Historians suggest that in ancient times, the Egyptians used copper saws. And since copper is softer than granite and basalt, it is assumed that the Egyptians used quartz sand as an abrasive. The statues that sang. Once among the sandy dunes of Egypt near the city of Luxor, you would notice 2 giant stone figures. They guard the ancient pharaoh's sarcophagus like 2 majestic and silent sentinels. But one day, after the great earthquake in 27 BC, one of them began to sing. Yes, you heard that right. It began to make a sound that resembled both a whistle and a moan at the same time. That's how the legend of the singing colossi of Memnon was born. No, it's not a myth. For centuries, people heard this mysterious melody. Imagine the sound became so famous that it was even used as a standard for tuning musical instruments. Hundreds, no, thousands of curious souls came from all corners of the earth to hear the song of these 700-ton giants. Scientists, of course, couldn't ignore such a wonder. They struggled for a long time with the mystery of the singing colossus, but they couldn't provide a satisfactory answer. They suggested that the musical phenomenon was connected to dew, which evaporates in the morning from the porous sandstone the statues are made of, and under the influence of wind and rising temperature, creates this unique sound. The place where these colossi stand is called the City of the Dead. Here lies one of the most breathtaking Egyptian temples, where the pharaoh is buried with his entire family. And by the way, these 2 similar statues depict Pharaoh Amenhotep III. Each of them weighs 720 tons and reaches a height of 18 meters. But in 199 AD, after a not very careful restoration, the statue's song suddenly stopped. People took this as a bad sign and were sure that it was a harbinger of disasters and wars. When you find yourself in Egypt, be sure to visit the City of the Dead and come face to face with these great giants. I'm sure this encounter will stay in your memory forever. I was literally near them just recently, and they filled me with admiration. Entrance to the Ice Age Cave. In southern Germany, in the Bruderthal Valley, scientists discovered the entrance to a cave shrouded in mysteries. It was probably visited by primitive people during the last ice age, about 16,000 years ago. Imagine the scene. A rural landscape, a lake, and nearby the city of Constance. Then you look up and see the hidden entrance to the cave. Archaeologists believe that this cave was home to ancient hunters and gatherers, and they left traces of their presence here. But what secrets could the walls of this cave hold? It is believed that this place is connected to the Magdalenian culture of the late Paleolithic. Archaeologists found flint tools, horn ornaments, wall paintings, and even figurines made from mammoth ivory there. The Bruderthal Valley is not new to archaeologists. In the same valley, the Petersfels Cave was discovered, where delicate figurines made of jet, resembling female bodies, were found. There is an interesting story connected to this cave. In 1978, while laying a sewer collector, scientists accidentally discovered an underground chamber. They carried out excavations and found evidence that the cave had been visited by prehistoric people, and then they sealed the entrance. And only in 2023, thanks to modern research methods, scientists managed to uncover this mystery again. They ruled even after death. The Incas had a unique attitude toward their deceased rulers, considering them not simply departed but continuing to live and rule even after death. The Incas had a unique attitude toward their deceased rulers, considering them not simply departed but continuing to live and rule even after death. The mummified rulers were preserved and honored as if they were alive, possessing their own lands and wealth. Amazingly, the estates of such mummies continued to be managed by their servants, and the mummies themselves took part in important rituals and even meetings. It was believed that these rulers were able to give advice and influence society, remaining the eternal masters of their lands. Over time, this created difficulties, as significant territories ended up under the control of the dead, which hindered the distribution of resources and the management of lands among the living. Such influence of the mummified rulers became a challenge for Inca society, especially given limited resources. The Incas tried to maintain a balance between honoring their ancestors and the needs of the living, which makes their culture unique and deeply symbolic. This phenomenon highlights how closely spiritual and practical life were intertwined among the Incas. A giant Viking burial archaeologist made a unique discovery in the village of Osum, east of Odense, Denmark. They discovered more than 50 well-preserved Viking skeletons, which is rare for such burials. In addition to the skeletons, 5 cremation burials were found, which further increases the value of the discovery. According to archaeologist Mikkel Bohr Lund, such discoveries open up new opportunities to study the health, nutrition, and origins of people from that time. It may be possible to find out if they were related. The burial site, covering about 2,000 square meters, dates back to the 10th century. In the 10th century, during the reign of Gorma and Tura, this is one of the largest Viking burial sites found on the island of Funen. Some of the graves indicate the high status of those buried. For example, the burial of a noblewoman who was buried in a wagon with items such as a necklace made of glass beads, a key, and a knife with silver trim. At her feet was a wooden chest, the contents of which remain a mystery. A bronze brooch and a piece of rock crystal, probably brought from Narkopol, were also found in the burials. These findings confirm that the Vikings had extensive trade connections. Fragments of alien technology. Professor Avi Loeb from Harvard University suggests that he found particles of extraterrestrial technology in a meteorite that fell off the coast of Papua New Guinea in 2014. These fragments were delivered to Harvard for research, and the U.S. Space Force Command confirmed with 99.999% certainty that the material came from another solar system. Loeb and his team went to the meteorite's crash site on the ship Silver Star. They discovered 10 spherules, metallic balls colored gold, blue, and brown, some of which resembled miniature Earths. Analysis showed that the spherules contain 84% iron, 8% silicon, 4% magnesium, and 2% titanium. Loeb emphasized that these materials are stronger than any space rocks ever recorded by NASA, and they were moving at a speed of 60 kilometers per second, which is faster than 95% of all stars near the Sun. These results suggest the possible artificial nature of the spherules, which could provide unique insight into materials beyond our solar system. The researchers suggest that the spherules may be part of a larger discovery, which they plan to investigate in future expeditions. A necropolis with 95 skeletons. Before you is one of the most mysterious and unique places in the Caucasus, the Dargavs necropolis, located in North Ossetia. This medieval architectural complex, also known as the City of the Dead, consists of 95 stone crypts, many of which are shaped like towers. The necropolis is located on a hillside in a picturesque valley surrounded by majestic mountains, which gives it a special atmosphere of mystery and tranquility. Dargavs holds special significance for local culture and history. It is believed that the crypts were built in the 16th to 18th centuries and were used as a burial site. Each family built its own crypt, where not only the bodies but also the belongings of the deceased were buried, which is a rare custom for this region. Dargavs became a kind of family archive where household items and even bones were kept, which helped historians better understand the life and customs of the ancient Ossetians. The necropolis is preserved by UNESCO as a cultural heritage site, and it attracts tourists from all over the world. Among the local residents, there are even stories that anyone who visits the city of the dead in Dargovs may never return. Today, the necropolis is an important cultural landmark and serves as a reminder of the eternal connection between generations. Mummification of meat. Many have heard of King Tutankhamun, but few know that he was buried with 48 boxes of beef and poultry. In order to provide the pharaoh with food in the afterlife, his burial preparations included supplies of food. A new study by archaeologists reveals interesting burial customs of ancient Egypt. It turns out that the meat buried with the pharaohs was mummified by treating it with special balms for preservation. This meat, called meat mummies, was common in Egyptian burials. Moreover, the oldest samples date back more than 5,000 years, and the earliest are 1,600 years ago. The latest study included the analysis of 4 samples of meat mummies, dated between 1,386 and 948 BC, which were found in the tombs of high-ranking tomb owners. Among the meat delicacies were cattle ribs, veal, and goat meat. Scientists conducted a chemical analysis of the meat and the wrappings used to cover it. They discovered that animal fat was used to coat the wrappings of the goat and the calf, indicating its use as a preservative. However, the cattle ribs contained traces of a complex balm made from fat or oil and resin from the pistachio tree, which was a luxury in ancient Egypt. About 600 years later, after its use in mummifying meat, this balm began to be used for human mummies as well. Bronze sword made of rock crystal. This stunning bronze sword with turquoise inlay and gold trim belongs to the period of the Warring States in China, spanning the 4th to 2nd centuries BC. This was a period when numerous kingdoms fought for dominance and influence, and the art of war reached a high level of perfection. This sword stood out not only for its combat purpose, but also for its incredible craftsmanship. The hilt of the sword is made of rock crystal, which gives it a special elegance and makes it not only a weapon, but also a work of art. The turquoise inlay adds unique color accents, and the use of gold emphasizes the status of the owner, likely a member of the nobility or a high-ranking warrior. Such swords not only served as a symbol of power and influence, but also demonstrated the skill of ancient Chinese blacksmiths and jewelers. The Merneptah stele, the long-term enslavement of the Jews by the Egyptians, and their subsequent exodus from Egypt represent one of the most complicated chapters in the history of ancient Egypt. Although archaeological evidence of this event is limited, each discovery is of great significance. Some believe there is no evidence that the Jews were in Egypt at the time of the Exodus, but that is not true. The most well-known evidence is the stele of Pharaoh Merneptah, discovered in Thebes in 1896. It refers to the military achievements of Merneptah and contains the earliest mention of Israel. The stele identifies Israel not as a state, but as a people hostile to Egypt. This fact is interesting because Merneptah was a descendant of Ramesses II, the possible pharaoh from the book of Exodus. According to the Bible, the exodus of the Jews marked the beginning of the formation of Jewish statehood. Merneptah could have witnessed the rise of Egyptian dominance in the region, which later weakened during the reign of Ramesses VI. During this period, new states were mainly formed by migrants from Europe, southern Italy, the Aegean, and western Anatolia. The mention of Israel may confirm the biblical version of the Israelites returning to their land from the south. Scandinavian cipher deciphered. Jonas Nordby, a researcher from the University of Oslo, deciphered an ancient Scandinavian cipher from the 12th-13th centuries known as Jotunvilur, which roughly translates as giant's confusion. The solution was found thanks to a 13th century wooden stick from the Norwegian city of Bergen, on which Sigurd and Lavrance wrote their names, both in regular runic script and using the Jotunvilur cipher. This discovery became a kind of Rosetta Stone for the researcher, helping to decipher the text by reading each rune not by its usual sound value, but by the last sound in its name. In addition, other wooden inscriptions were found where the names Thorstein and Eidnar were written using the same cipher. Runic sticks from the 12th and 13th centuries in Scandinavia were used to transmit messages, like modern text messages. Nordby believes that Jotunvelur might have been used not so much for secrecy, but rather as a language game, helping with literacy education. So, the 800-year-old code called Jotunvelur turned out to be a joke. The message said, "Kiss me." The oldest medicine recent discoveries in the Grotta de Pigeon cave in Tafaralt, Morocco, are changing our understanding of ancient medicine. Researchers have found evidence of the use of medicinal herbs that are 15,000 years old. Special attention was drawn to ephedra, a plant used in traditional Chinese medicine to treat asthma, bronchitis, and colds. The research is based on the analysis of macrofossils found in late Pleistocene layers. The Grotta de Pigeon cave is known as the oldest cemetery in North Africa, where 34 skeletons of Stone Age hunter-gatherers are buried. Ephedra has been found in ritual burials and has powerful healing properties, including epinephrine and pseudoepinephrine, which help with nasal congestion and stimulate the nervous system. The preserved ephedra fruits found in the cave indicate its use for pain relief and stopping bleeding during trepanation, a skull surgery performed 15,000 years ago and considered one of the oldest in the world. The cave is also known for the ritual of tooth removal, a painful ceremony marking the transition to adulthood. Ephedra likely helped to relieve pain and bleeding, demonstrating its importance in the cultural traditions of ancient inhabitants. These discoveries confirm that as early as 15,000 years ago, people had deep knowledge of the properties of plants, skillfully using them for both healing and ritual purposes long before the Neolithic era. This bread has been baked for 43,000 years. Evidence found in Australia shows that the Aborigines were baking bread long before the Egyptians, more than 34,000 years ago. The discovery of millstones in New South Wales indicates an ancient tradition of flour production. The Aborigines, known as hunter-gatherers, also practiced agriculture. Women collected seeds from various plants, including local grains from spinifex, sometimes even from ant nests. Flour was ground on millstones, some of which are up to 50,000 years old. The resulting flour was turned into dough and baked into nutritious bread, an important part of the Aboriginal diet. European arrival and white flour nearly erased these traditional bread-making methods. But today, there is a renewed interest in these ancient techniques and in the culinary heritage of Australia's Aboriginal people. The stone chain before you is a unique architectural feature of the Garishvara Temple, located in the city of Yelandur, India. The temple was built in the 16th century and is known for its intricate carved elements, among which this chain, carved from a single piece of stone, stands out in particular. Carving such a chain from a single monolith is an astonishing example of the skill of ancient Indian stonemasons, which inspires admiration even today. In Indian architecture, every element of a temple has its own meaning and serves a spiritual role. Such elements could symbolize the connection between the earthly and the divine, or be an expression of strength and eternity. The Gaureshvari Temple was built during the flourishing period of Vijayanagara dynasty architecture, known for its grand structures and attention to detail. Ancient paintings depicting UFOs. Recently, scientists have often come across images of circles and triangles on the walls of ancient temples and caves. This may seem ordinary, but the presence of flying objects in medieval religious paintings is astonishing. I will show you 9 paintings that, according to ufologists, depict alien objects. The Annunciation with St. Emilius, 1486, a painting by Carlo Crivelli. The ray of light from the sky in the painting is traditionally interpreted as a divine message, but some ufologists see it as a depiction of a UFO. The Crucifixion of Christ, 1350, a painting from the Serbian monastery Visoki Dečani. In the painting, 2 objects can be seen in the air that resemble flying machines. The official version states that these are the moon and the sun, although in peasant tradition they are not deified. The Ascension of Christ, 1710, a work by Arient de Gilder. The painting is kept in Cambridge. It depicts a disc-shaped object illuminating John the Baptist and Jesus Christ. Some believe that the artist might have conveyed hidden knowledge about UFOs. Madonna with Saint Giovannino, 15th century, by Domenica Ghirlandaio. In the painting, a flying object is visible above Madonna's shoulder, which a man with a dog is pointing at. The Tapestry Triumph of Summer, 1538. Created in Bruges, it is kept in the Bavarian Museum in Germany. The tapestry depicts 3 disc-shaped objects, which ufologists interpret as UFOs. The Miracle of the Snow, 1428-1432, work by Masolino da Panicale. The painting depicts an event from 4th century Rome where disc-shaped objects can be seen in the sky. Israel, Put Your Hope in the Lord, 17th century. This painting is from a Dominican monastery in Sighisoara, Transylvania. It shows a giant disc-shaped object above a burning church. The Glorification of the Sacrament of the Eucharist, 1600, by Bonaventura Salimbeni. The painting depicts Jesus Christ and God the Father with a globe, which some researchers interpret as a time control device. The Crucifixion of Christ, 17th century. It is kept in the Svetitsko-Veli Cathedral in Mesquite, Georgia. On either side of the cross, there are objects with human faces, which ufologists consider evidence of the extraterrestrial origin of Jesus Christ. As you can see, all these paintings were created in completely different parts of the world, but the objects in them are somewhat similar to each other. Holy water from an air conditioner. A funny incident happened at the Sri Banke Bihari Temple in Vrindavan, India, which could have happened anywhere, but it looks especially striking in a country with hundreds of gods and temples for every occasion. The worshippers gathered around the statue of an elephant from which water was dripping. They decided that it was holy water from the feet of Krishna. However, in reality, the water was just simple condensation dripping from the air conditioner cooling the temple. For people who had never encountered air conditioners, this explanation was not sufficient. The devotees continued to insist that this was the very nectar from the lotus feet of Krishna, which the temple attendants collect every morning during the washing of the divine feet. The temple even had to issue an official statement to dispel the myth and warn people against drinking this water. The danger of such water is that fungi and bacteria can form in the air conditioning system, which can easily get into the droplets. This could lead to infections. But it should be noted that the stomachs of the locals are used to unfavorable conditions. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to buy food at street markets. When this incident was reported on television, the believers were even offended at the temple authorities for not warning them earlier. But how can you convince someone who already believes? This task is almost impossible. Archaeologists hid this treasure. In the first millennium BC, a mysterious Etruscan civilization flourished in the northwest of the Apennine Peninsula, gradually suppressed by the Romans. Their cultural heritage is sometimes discovered in unexpected places. In 1991, Italian researchers Giovanni Lamarato and Giuseppe Marano discovered an unusual object that remained unnoticed for a long time. Only 17 years later, Salvatore Foschi from Bomarzo became interested in the find, recalling stories from his father and grandfather about an ancient sanctuary known as the Preacher's Stone. This pyramid, whose architecture resembles Mayan structures, is carved directly into the rock from gray volcanic tuff. It is 17 meters long, 10 meters high, and 8 meters wide. 3 staircases are carved on the outside, leading to altars and channels for the blood of the victims to flow. Salvatore Bomarzo, built around the 7th century AD, was used as a temple altar. Its popular name, the Preacher's Stone, indicates its religious purpose. Despite the importance of the discovery, it did not attract proper attention, possibly due to its inconsistency with the traditional history of ancient Italy. Officially, it is attributed to the Etruscan era, although the true origin of the pyramid remains a mystery. A mirror for protection against spirits. In the north of Israel, in the ancient city of Ushi, school children found a unique object that was used for protection against evil spirits. This happened as part of the state program Survival Course for Young Leaders. Ushi is a place with a rich history. There, in the 2nd century AD, even the Sanhedrin, the main governing body of the Jews, was based there. But our artifact is even older. Scientists have confirmed that this is a fragment of the frame of a small mirror, which was popular from the late Roman era until the arrival of Islam. But it wasn't just a mirror, it was an amulet, a demon-repelling mirror. This mirror hung on the wall of the house as a protective charm. Maybe our ancestors had their own ways of fighting evil forces. At that time, Christianity and Judaism coexisted with ancient beliefs and magic. That's why, after a Christian prayer, a Jew could go to a fortune teller and decorate the house with amulets and mirrors, as they say, just in case. So next time you hang a mirror on the wall, think about how your ancient ancestors did it thousands of years ago. Maybe you're not just decorating your home, but also warding off ancient evil spirits. VIP Maya Tomb. Imagine you're an archaeologist, and in Mexico, deep within the ancient city of Palenque, you discover a secret burial chamber of the Maya civilization, filled with unique and mysterious objects. Such an adventure happened to scientists from the National Institute of Anthropology and History of Mexico. Palenque was one of the most majestic and mysterious cities of the Maya. It was also called La Luna. This ancient city is located in the Mexican state of Chiapas. During restoration work in Palenque, archaeologists discovered a burial chamber. Inside was a human skeleton, laid face up, with the head turned to the north. This was characteristic of the burial of very important people in Palenque. But that's not all. Large ceramic bowls were found in the tomb, which the Maya used as offerings for the deceased. They believed that the dead would eat from these bowls in the afterlife. And in the same tomb, a second burial was found, the skeleton of a woman. Next to her were green figurines made of malachite. The Maya believed that this stone possesses powerful spiritual forces. Although Palenque was not the largest Maya city, its architecture is simply astonishing. Thanks to the hieroglyphic inscriptions found in this city, scientists were able to trace the history of the Palenque dynasty's rule from the 5th to the 8th century AD. So the original mysteries continue to be revealed thanks to the persistent work of archaeologists. And each new discovery is another page in the history of our world. Artificial. In the centuries, in Palenque. In this city, the world's oldest known artificial eye appeared, which was found with a woman buried in the burned city of Shari Sukte in Iran. This unique artifact is more than 4,800 years old. The eye prosthesis was a hemisphere made of a lightweight material based on bitumen paste. It was covered with gold, and on its surface there were slits imitating the pupil, which gave it a realistic appearance. The prosthesis was secured with 2 small holes, through which a cord, similar to modern bands, was threaded, allowing it to stay in place. The woman wore this eye during the day to hide the empty eye socket, and at night she carefully kept it in a leather pouch, which was found along with other burial items. Such a level of craftsmanship and attention to appearance amazes even modern researchers. This discovery testifies to the high level of medical and craft knowledge of ancient civilizations, as well as the desire of people of that time to preserve their appearance and maintain their dignity. Scientists were amazed 450 years later. More than 4 centuries later, after her death in 1582, Saint Teresa of Avila once again attracted the attention of believers around the world. At the end of August 2023, her remains were exhumed, and scientists discovered that the saint's body had not undergone the process of decomposition. A team of researchers compared modern photographs with images taken in 1914 and confirmed that the saint's face remained clearly recognizable. The exhumation was carried out in the Diocese of Avila in Spain under the supervision of Marco Chiesa, the general postulator of the Order of Discalced Carmelites. The Catholic Church shared this news on social media, stating, "Her body is still incorrupt. Look for God's miracles." The silver coffin, encased in marble, was opened to study the state of the saint's health at the time of her death. Chiesa noted that although it is difficult to determine the skin color due to mummification, the facial features, especially in the middle part, remained clear, which was confirmed by both doctors and experts. Saint Teresa, a Spanish nun, became the first woman to be elevated to the rank of Doctor of the Church in 1970 for her significant contribution to church teaching. She was canonized in 1622, and her body has repeatedly been called incorrupt. Researchers believe that studying the remains of Saint Teresa may shed light on the reasons for such long preservation of the body and provide important recommendations for the preservation of relics. 10 keys were used to open the tomb, which are kept by different individuals and organizations. the Duke of Alba, the city of Alba de Tormes, the General Superior of the Carmelite Order, and the King of Spain. After the tomb was opened, St. Teresa's remains were moved to a secure room and examined by doctors and scientists. It was decided to conduct a visual inspection, take photographs and x-rays, and send samples to a laboratory in Italy for further research. The full results of the analysis will only be available in a few months. The study showed that St. Teresa had heel spurs on her feet, which are calcium growths that cause severe pain when walking. Despite this, Teresa continued to travel until her death, covering significant distances. In 1582, she went to the city of Alba de Tormes despite her poor health, to visit her friend Anne of St. Bartholomew. The saint felt unwell and died 3 days after her arrival. Local dioceses, as well as scientific and religious organizations, continue to study her remains, hoping to gain new information about her life, her health, and how St. Teresa was able to maintain her strength of spirit despite all her physical suffering. A photograph of ancient fishing. Scientists have discovered the oldest images of fishing, which were found on slate plates from the archaeological site of Gunnersdorf in western Germany. These images are about 15,000 to 15,800 years old. They belong to the Magdalenian culture. The study of 4 to 6 plates found earlier was conducted using modern visualization methods. Scientists have determined that the drawings of fish and net-like patterns on the plates form a single composition depicting the use of fishing nets. 11 images of fish were identified on the plates, 8 of which are surrounded by nets. The figures are scratched onto smooth areas of the slate. First, the fish was depicted, and then the net pattern was added. The fact that the Magdalenian people ate fish is confirmed by fish bones found at their sites. Scientists believe that the nets were made from plant fibers, such as nettle. Earlier, other evidence of fishing in the Paleolithic was found, including hooks up to 42,000 years old and traps. The plates from Gunnersdorf also contain images of deer, horses, mammoths, and female silhouettes, making them a valuable source of knowledge about the lives of ancient people. The Piri Reis map. The map created in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis is one of the most famous cartographic artifacts of the Age of Discovery. Although only a fragment of this map has survived to this day, it is kept in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul and was discovered in 1929. The map is of particular interest because it contains a partial copy of the now-lost map of Christopher Columbus, which makes it an important historical document. The Piri Reis map depicts parts of the Atlantic Ocean, including the coasts of Europe, Africa, and South America. It is a surprisingly accurate depiction of South America for the early 16th century, as well as details of the Caribbean and the islands of Hispaniola and Cuba. One of the interesting features of the map is that Cuba is depicted as part of the Asian continent, which is probably due to early misconceptions about the geography of the New World. Another mysterious detail is the southern part of the map, which is interpreted as an early version of Terra Australis, the hypothetical southern continent that was believed to exist at the time. This adds extra intrigue and debate about the possible sources of information used by Piri Reis when creating the map. He may have relied on older maps or used the stories of sailors from his time, which makes this artifact even more significant and mysterious for researchers. The mystery of the plush swan. Archaeologists suggest that the felt swan figurine, created in the Iron Age, symbolized life. This artifact, known as the Pazyryk swan, was made from reindeer felt and stuffed with reindeer wool. The figurine belongs to the Pazyryk culture, associated with the nomadic peoples of the Saka group, which was considered the eastern branch of the Scythians. The swan is estimated to be 2,400 years old. It was found in the Pazyryk Valley in the Altai Mountains, near the borders of Russia, Kazakhstan, China, and Mongolia. The figurine is about 30 centimeters tall. The body of the swan was made of white felt, the eyes and wingtips from black felt, and the legs from a reddish-brown material. To make the swan stand upright, wooden sticks were inserted into its legs. It is believed that the figurine could have been mounted on a chariot or on a structure resembling a tent, which eventually collapsed over time. The swan probably symbolized life in three realms: in the air, on land, and in water. Researchers note that images of waterfowl, such as swans and ducks, are often found in creation myths of ancient peoples. Excavations in Pazyryk began back in the 1920s, but the swan figurine was only found in 1949. The unique preservation of this and other organic objects is explained by the peculiarities of the local climate. Many burial mounds are located in the permafrost zone, which allows artifacts to be preserved almost untouched for centuries. The pyramids, when they were built, the pyramids we see today are far from how they looked when they were first created. Don't believe it? Let's dive into history. Ancient engineers used an astonishing 6.1 million tons of limestone to build the main pyramid of Giza, the largest and oldest of them all. It was built by order of Pharaoh Khufu. But what do you think it looked like before? No, it wasn't sandy brown. It was covered with a shiny layer of limestone. But unfortunately, over time, many of the facing stones were reused. This probably started during the reign of Tutankhamun and continued for many centuries. Add to that the earthquake of 1303 AD, which shook them a bit. Nowadays, the pyramids still amaze us with their durability. For example, the Pyramid of Kefir, which has even preserved some of its original facing stones. It looks as if one peak is wedged into another. It's amazing. On top of the pyramids, so-called pyramidions were installed, covered with electrum, a shiny mixture of gold and silver. Unfortunately, most of them have been lost over time, but some examples can still be seen in museums. An elite tomb in the Temple of Apollo. In the village of Gulpinar, archaeologists discovered an ancient Roman tomb about 2,000 years old. It is located in the sanctuary of Apollo Smintheus. The tomb contained the remains of more than 10 people, including children and adults, which were mixed together, indicating possible disturbances or looting in the past. The Temple of Apollo itself, built in Homoxetus around 150 BC, is constructed in the Ionic style. Elements of the decor have been preserved in particular fragments of the entablature, depicting scenes from Homer's famous Iliad. The region cited in the Iliad was key in the Trojan War's history. Excavations in this area have provided numerous artifacts and traces of temples, offering a unique insight into life in ancient times. The young man, tree. In Ireland, after a hurricane knocked down a 215-year-old beech tree, the skeleton of a young man who died in the Middle Ages was discovered in its roots. It's amazing that in 1800 the tree was accidentally planted right on the grave, and its roots grew through the remains, preserving important details that allowed scientists to study the young man's history. Analysis showed that he was 17 to 20 years old. Judging by his diet, the young man ate well and probably belonged to the wealthy part of society. However, the study also revealed a curvature of the spine, which may indicate hard physical labor during childhood. He died a violent death. 2 notches were found on the ribs, indicating stab wounds. This case highlights the importance of accidental archaeological discoveries that shed light on the personal stories of people who lived centuries ago. An important discovery in Kazakhstan. In Kazakhstan, archaeologists have made unique discoveries, uncovering the Kulia social complex and new artifacts dating back to the Western Göktürk period. Among these finds, a belt buckle depicting a Göktürk Kagan stands out, discovered for the first time in history. The Yelik-Yelikisazi structure is the first and only memorial cult complex of the Turkic Khaganate found outside of Mongolia. In 2021, personal belongings of Tigan, an ancient Turkic prince who ruled the Anoke province, were discovered in the Kurgan area. The most important artifact was a golden belt buckle depicting the Göktürk Kagan on the throne, which is a unique testament to the Turkic culture of that period. This discovery demonstrates the connection between the Turkic peoples and their art, as well as their burial traditions. Lard from the Second World War? For decades, after strong storms on the coast of St. Cyrus in Scotland, the sea has periodically washed up pork lard that ended up in the sea due to a shipwreck during the Second World War. Recently, the waves washed ashore 4 more pieces of lard, each of which retained the shape of the barrels in which they were probably stored all these years. These unusual relics became known to local residents after the cargo ship carrying the lard was sunk by bombs. It is believed that with each new storm, the sunken ship gradually releases part of its cargo, washing fatty blocks ashore. Local residents are familiar with this phenomenon and claim that the lard, despite being covered with a crust of shells, has been well preserved and is suitable for use. During the war, when access to lard was limited, such finds became real treasures, helping people survive difficult times. Ancient hair. It turns out that this terrible epidemic has a very long history. Various narcotic substances were popular thousands of years ago, and in those times, millions of people around the world died from this poison. Archaeologists found the oldest case of drug use in Europe on the island of Minorca near Spain. This person's hair is more than 3,000 years old. Scientists, while studying the Escarix cave, discovered that our ancestors performed a strange ritual. They cut strands of hair from a deceased person, dyed them red, and placed them in small boxes made of horn and wood. Researchers analyzed the hair using advanced methods and found the alkaloids scopolamine and ephedrine in them, substances that cause hallucinations. It's no secret that researchers can find drugs in a person's hair and nails, even months or years later. Scientists believe that ancient people used plants that cause visions, such as mandrake, henbane, and datura. In addition, they ate ephedra, which contains ephedrine and a stimulant. Now we can confidently say that psychostimulants were popular in Europe more than 3,000 years ago, and most likely, even then, they were already creating a big problem for humanity. The oldest doll in Italy. Recently, archaeologists in Italy discovered a clay figurine about 7,000 years old. This treasure was carefully preserved by the Batafrat cave, where the first agricultural communities on the peninsula lived. This artifact is a real rarity, especially for Italy, where such finds are almost non-existent. The figurine represents a doll whose face is depicted rather schematically, but the most interesting thing is her hairstyle and jewelry. They are made with special attention to detail. Just think about it. 7,000 years ago, people used this cave not only as a source of water or a place for living, hunting, and farming. They performed their mysterious rituals there. And it seems that this little clay doll was one of the main figures in these ceremonies. Unfortunately, we still have little concrete evidence about exactly how these ancient rituals were performed. But this figurine is a valuable key to unlocking the mysteries of the past. Hagar Chim, the Hagar Chim Temple. Located in Malta, it is one of the oldest and most impressive megalithic structures, dating back to the Gantija phase, between 3,600 and 3,200 BC. Situated on a hill overlooking the Mediterranean Sea, this temple complex is one of the greatest archaeological testimonies to ancient civilizations that existed long before the construction of the pyramids in Egypt and Stonehenge in England. Hagar Kim and other megalithic temples of Malta have been recognized as unique masterpieces of architecture. The temple is built from massive stone blocks, some of which weigh up to 20 tons. The complex has a crescent-shaped facade which is characteristic of Maltese temples from that era. The architectural features include inner halls, niches, and altars, which indicate the ritual and religious function of this structure. Inside the temples, figurines symbolizing fertility have been found. An interesting feature of Hagar Kim is its orientation. The temple is designed in such a way that on the day of the summer solstice, the first rays of the sun enter through the central entrance and illuminate the interior of the complex. This fact indicates the astronomical knowledge of the ancient builders and their deep connection with natural cycles. The limb of Daniel Sickles and its adventures. One of the most famous exhibits at the National Museum of Health and Medicine in Washington is the fragments of the leg of General Daniel Sickles, a participant in the U.S. Civil War. This exhibit attracts the attention not only of visitors, but also of Sickles himself, who repeatedly came to the museum to see what he had lost and impress his friends, including Mark Twain. Daniel Sickles is a controversial and scandalous figure, born in New York, who made a successful career in law and politics. His life was full of sensational events, including his marriage to Teresa Baggioli, who was half his age. Sickles did not hide his affairs once even bringing a prostitute to a state assembly meeting. A dramatic turn came when his wife had an affair with District Attorney Philip Barton Key. Upon learning about the affair, Sickles shot Key right across from the White House. The trial became a sensation. Sickles pleaded temporary insanity. This was the first time it was used as a defense, and it was successful. In 1863, as a major general, Sickles took part in the Battle of Gettysburg, where he advanced his corps forward in violation of orders. This decision led to heavy losses, and he himself lost his leg due to a cannonball strike. The amputated limb was sent to a museum in a special box and became one of the main exhibits. Sickles not only continued his career, but also returned to politics. He lived a long life and passed away at the age of 94 in 1914. His leg is still on display in the museum, reminding people of his vivid and eventful life. Thank you very much to everyone who watched this video until the end, and especially to those who shared it with their friends. Write in the comments which of these discoveries impressed you the most. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone.